We have a presentation on adoption from the United Way of Greater Chippewa Valley. Dr. Stacy Martin will give that presentation. I'll pass it over to her as soon as we unmute her.
I am unmuted.
There you
And
are.
let me tell you, any nerves I had were just, they're gone now. And ironically, I'm in a all-day cybersecurity training, so even better, right? Okay, really quickly, just a quick overview of who I am. I'm Dr. Stacy Martin. I am the Community Impact Director for Digital Access and Engagement. We changed my title recently because we wanted to um, have a better look at what I actually do in the community. So my role is basically I am an educator. I'm ending my 26th year in education. And I teach digital literacy skills to senior citizens and veterans all over the Chippewa Valley. So I'm going to give you, I'll just, for the sake of time today, I'm going to give just a really quick shovel through this PowerPoint, just because we're now 37 minutes or so into this meeting, and I want to make sure you guys have time.
Yep, it's fine. Just do your thing.
I know. I'm also in a cybersecurity
Oh,
training though,
okay.
so I was intending to be back to that by 1:45. I'm just going to go very quickly if we can. So the PowerPoint, we can make that available to everyone if you would like it. So if we want to go to the next slide. All right, quick background. United Way Greater Chippewa Valley, we cover Chippewa and Eau Claire counties. Our goal is to improve lives in our community. I'm going to just, I have a few notes, but I want to go, like I said, just kind of quickly, and then I can answer questions too. Our goal is to improve lives and build a stronger community. We partner with the counties, I'm backwards here. Okay, focusing on the Ellis population. If you don't know what that is asset limited, income constrained, and employed individuals. So it's folks that are maybe just a little above that poverty level, but maybe don't have the discretionary funds available. They're living paycheck to paycheck, I guess, for lack of a better term. The areas that we focus on at United Way, health, education, financial stability, basic needs, and our fifth pillar is digital access and engagement. When we started, it was digital equity and inclusion, and we decided that as time has shifted, we changed our name to digital access and engagement because that's what we're doing in the community now. We are investing in the next 3 years, starting July 1st of this year. We will be investing $750,000 a year into 30 programs in our community through our grants program. And this is just a little bit of the 2023-2024 annual report data. We served over 14,000 folks in our communities. 191 households were housed, and we served 89,000 meals through our partner agencies in the Chippewa Valley. So Chip Dip, my favorite title ever. Chip Dip is the Chippewa Valley Digital Inclusion Partnership. That is an alliance that was created in the Chippewa Valley. Originally, it started with Eau Claire County. The coalition was formed to address the digital divide in our area. We have expanded to Chippewa County. We've brought partners in from Chippewa County as well. Our partners include both counties, Chippewa and Eau Claire County, libraries from all over both counties, the Chippewa Valley Technical College, nonprofit leaders in our community, pretty much anybody and everybody that wanted to be involved. We brought them on board and we are rolling forward. So just a quick little background on Chip Dip. It started in 2022 when United Way decided to add a fifth pillar to our community impact agenda, essentially. And my predecessor, Amber Sharon Brock, was brought on board, and she is essentially the leader of this movement in our community. And I am kind of riding on her coattails a little bit. I just started with the agency in August of 2024, but I had been working with Amber through my previous agency from almost the beginning of the formation of ChipDip. Let's see. Let me see what our next slide is because I have them on paper here. Okay, so Amber and I had, through our Chip Dip meetings that we had with the community, we decided that the next like steps for Chip Dip were to look at education. What are the needs of our community in the education field? Because that's my area. That's kind of where I thrive, and what can I do to help? So Amber and I talked about it, and we decided to put out a request to Ellie Phillips Senior Center and see if they would be interested in hosting a digital literacy course for seniors at their center. And we thought, great, we'll have one site, it'll be fine. The Bloomer Public Library decided that they also wanted to host a site. So between the two sites, we figured we would have about 12 participants. That's what, like, high end, that's what we hoped for. Yes, let's get 12 people involved. We ended up with 56. So we decided that the need was tremendously high in the area. So we shifted from, let's see what's going to happen, to what can we do, blowing this wide open into our community. And the fiscal year of 24-25, we had classes I've had classes at the Augusta Senior Center, Ellie Phillips Senior Center, Bloomer Civic Senior Center, / Bloomer Library. We kind of shift between the two, depending on how many participants we have. Fairchild Senior Center, that was brand new this spring. Chippewa Falls Senior Center, and the Wisconsin Veterans Recovery Home. I have had 3 classes in each location outside of Fairchild. Fairchild just picked up this spring, but I've had 3 classes at each location, and the classes have been essentially full in every location. Next slide. Here's some of the highlights that we've had. So Q2 is the fall semester, October, November, December. That's some of just the numbers for that. Q3 was from the spring, January, February, March. These are the number of individuals that we've served, the number of devices that we have handed out. My classes that I run are typically 12 weeks long. I have a deal with my participants that if they attend at least 8 classes, then I am able to give them a device, a laptop that's loaded with a program that we use. I use North Star Digital Literacy. It was created by Minnesota Literacy because it's module based and it's very self-paced. So it starts with basic skills and works up from there. It gets into application based like Microsoft Word and Excel, and all the way up into social media and then telehealth, which I feel is very, very important. Next slide quickly here. Try to remember. And then this is just a chart of the data, because United Way, we like to show graphics, and we like to be able to put our numbers into something other than numbers. So here is just a quick overview of that. We also did, so next slide, please. We also did, we're doing some community outreach events through the digital literacy and the digital access and engagement program. We did the Homeless Connect event this spring. We were able to connect with 51 homeless individuals, and we handed out 21 laptops to those individuals to use at the day services that are available, and they can take them to the public library and use open Wi-Fi throughout the community. I actually just went on today and signed us up to do the next event, which is coming up in July. And we're hoping to hand out even more devices at that point. So here is some of the outcomes. This is just from this year so far. This is not final numbers because I still have one class that I have not added data for yet. So we've had 90 participants. We've handed out 168 devices and counting, which I'm super excited about for a program that's pretty young in what we're doing in the community. And then the next slide just shows some of our partner agencies that we've talked to. Royal Credit Union is on there. They are, I partner with Royal Credit Union and we do a digital financial literacy for senior citizens. We talk about frauds and scams. We actually just did a class last Friday at the Bloomer Civic Center, and we had 21 participants at that event. First Choice Recycling, that is where we get our laptops from. We have worked out an agreement with them, so we get very reduced cost refurbished laptops, so we can offer them back to the community for either no cost or a very, very low cost share to community members. Chippewa Falls Unified School District has generously offered us refurbished Chromebooks that we are able to give out to community members for zero charge. We don't charge anything to community members for those devices. All right, last one, challenges. Well, with ACP going away, we have lost our ability to offer, to give options to our participants and the community members for affordable internet access. It's a lot of folks are not do not meet the income requirements for Lifeline, so we are really struggling with how and where and when to send folks for that. United Way Greater Chippewa Valley we have limited staffing. Our budget is very low, so we have one digital navigator who works 10 hours a week. So his ability to work with individuals is very limited just because of his available time. The device costs, the laptops have gone up in price tremendously from the start of this program to now. So we are dealing with our ability to purchase devices for, well, a reasonable cost, I guess, is relative. What is reasonable to one may not be reasonable to another. And then we just need to be able to continue outreaching and work on our resource development. And then the other piece to this was the loss of the federal grants that would have helped to bolster our program for the next 3 years. And those grants went away, and so now we have to pivot a little bit. So that's what I have. I'm sorry it was very quick, but I am going to offer up anyone questions that you have. I wanted to talk more about ChipDit, but unfortunately I just don't have the ability right now, time.
No worries, Stacy. Thank you. I'll open up to questions now for Stacy.
If you want to ask a question, you can drop it in chat, or you can raise your hand and I
Rachel
will
has her hand
unmute
raised.
you.
Hi, Stacy. Rachel Shumlin. I'm an education consultant at the Department of Public Instruction.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed your presentation. I'm curious what you're hearing from participants about their interest in next steps, or if there are sustainability pieces that you'd like to see or move forward with. Are they asking for additional classes or different topics? Once they've taken the classes and they have their device, is it done? How does it work?
I load the program directly onto the laptops before I give them out to students. And then I sit down with them, and when we log in for the very first time, I teach them how to save their login information so then they can use either public Wi-Fi if they don't have internet at home. They can take their laptops to the library or to any of the senior centers in the area, and they can continue working on the program. They also get I have a work cell phone, and I always encourage them to text me because it's working on yet another skill for seniors. That is something that there's a little bit of a fear factor with technology. So I try to encourage them to text me. Often I still get phone calls, but I try really hard to make sure that they have the ability to continue working beyond the scope of our class. I have had some requests for classes. We are test running an iPhone class and an Android, like the cell phone classes, at Ellie Phillips Senior Center this summer. And the Chippewa Falls Senior Center requested, we call it an advanced class. And I'm air quoting advanced because it's really a time for my seniors to come together and they can ask me questions about things like Facebook. How do I get on Facebook? How do I shop on Amazon? So we're able to do more one-on-one work in those advanced classes. Those are great questions, Rachel.
Thanks, Stacy. I see Mike asked in chat. I don't quite understand his question, but maybe asking about number of devices provided and number of participants.
The devices are community-based as well. So the participants are just for classes or one-on-ones, and the devices are, we have an application that individuals in the community can fill out the online application through the United Way website. And if they meet the guidelines that we have set up for that, then they're able to get to get a device.
Thanks.
What about your work with the other United Ways in Wisconsin? Do you do any collaboration or any thinking on when you're working on projects to streamline processes that you guys are working on?
We're working on device distribution with State United Way. That will be coming up. They're still working on some of the guidelines for that through some of the big grants that they've received. Our next step is to work with the United Way. They have the really longest name ever. It's like the Red River Valleys. It's Hudson, that area. It used to be Dunn County, and Dunn County merged with the Hudson group. So we're going to work with them on some device distributions and then work with them on getting their digital access program up and running as well. I'm just kind of reading in this. Okay, more devices. Why don't you require participation to get a device? Some of we partner with Chippewa Valley Technical College. So often we are doing devices for students as well that may not have access because of income. So we also, we don't require participation from those students because they're students already at the technical college. Let's see. Why do the devices require an internet connection? You should download the software on the laptops. It's not software, it's web-based. The North Star Digital Literacy is web-based. Sorry, I'm just reading from the chat and answering questions from the chat too. Why? Download the software. Yep.
You could just move on there.
Okay.
Are there any questions from the task force? No, hearing none from any of the task force members. Thanks, Stacy. Great presentation. Appreciate your time.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Stacy.
Yep. Right. All right. Moving down the agenda, I'll pass it over to Jessica, who will lead us in the discussion on task force recommendations. Jessica?
Mark, aren't we doing a PSC update too?
Oh, yes. Excuse me. Thank you.
Maybe do that first.
We can blaze through that for a couple minutes.
Do the
Yeah.
PSC update first. Go ahead.
All right, let me get a new slide deck up. So, things progress week to week here at the Broadband office. We just want to give you a couple updates on what's going on. Just top line, some new web tools that we've got going. You all might be familiar with our Broadband grant footprint tool, which kind of depicts all 488 grant awards that the commission has given out since we started in 2014. We keep updating that app. We updated it just a week or two ago, so you'll now see which projects have been completed and connected to households as of the end of April. So that's a nice tool if you want to see kind of progress over time. It's really fun with the slider. I like sliding back and forth and seeing what's completed, and slowly that map is filling in quite a bit. So there's that link there, but it's on our website as well. Also wanted to preview with you. You all are our first folks externally to see this, but we are rebuilding our Wisconsin broadband map. We get a lot of questions all the time from members of the public. I heard in the news that you're giving out broadband grants, or, I know there's a big initiative, Internet for All. I don't have internet. I'm part of the people who make up all, when do I get internet? And, why don't I have internet, or what internet do I have? So we kind of have rebuilt this app with that mindset of answering the question, do I have broadband, or when will I get it? And so it's a pretty nice, slick new application. You can, once it's live, you'll be able to log in, just pull it up, put in your address, search your address, and it'll pull up something that looks like this, where it'll have your address. It'll tell you, are you currently served or unserved based on kind of the state's goal of service of 100 by 20. It'll list a number of internet service providers and kind of their speeds and technologies. In this case, up in Sturgeon Bay, this location is unserved because it doesn't have a 100 by 20 connection. But it does have a little bit of 25 by 3 US cellular, and then a good number of satellite options as well. And then it'll tell you, but this location is in progress to be improved. So AT&T got a state grant award of gigabit service to build fiber by the end of 2026. And so you'll know I don't have broadband now, but there's a time and place where I will. So that's cool. We also incorporated some tribal boundaries and local government boundaries, which are really nice to see if you're just trying to understand a little bit about a particular unit of government. So that's coming soon. I think in the next week or two, we will launch that for the public to see as well. And then this is a fun slide, we talk a lot about BEAD in Wisconsin and just the way the legislation was written for BEAD. Wisconsin has a particularly difficult job. So there was a nationwide report that was put out recently that talked about the BEAD funding allocation for each state, and then the number of locations that still need internet service. And just the way the legislation was written, the way the amount of money was allocated versus the amount of locations that still need service just shook out differently. And so Wisconsin is in a really tough place. And we talk about this all the time. We have the third lowest amount of funding per location that still needs service across the country. So only Colorado and California have less than us. So what that means is we have to work extra hard, and I think we're up to the task, the team's up to the task, but finding and filling those gaps is expensive, and we have to be very judicious with our money. So it's just an interesting example of how the work we set out to do is difficult, but we feel like we can still do it. It's just puts into perspective. Some of our neighbors would be nice to be Nebraska with $14,000 per location. It's a lot easier to get internet for all, and lots more fiber in that case. So just a quick map, a little stats for you, and I will pass this to Alyssa.
Thanks, everybody. So we shared this with the task force before, but here it is again. So round one was opened in January, closed in February. The state of Wisconsin had 425 applications, a request of just shy of $3 billion, and 95% of the locations in the state were that were eligible for BEAD got at least one application submitted to them. So really robust participation and sort of a really nice visual of kind of the path forward. And so then on May 8th, we opened round two. And so round two in the state of Wisconsin for BEAD is kind of, some of us like to call it like round 1.5, but it's basically people who applied in round one have the opportunity to make their application better, or locations that didn't get an application or don't have a resulting application because of the way sort of applications knock each other out and overlap in different ways, can accept a new application. And so the map you're seeing here is the blue are all the locations in the state that have a preliminary award, or they have more than 2 applicants who both want to do it with a qualifying bid. And so they're locations that either already have a preliminary award or are very likely to, because there's 2 or more applicants vying with sort of a competitive qualified BEAD application right now. And so that makes up about 169,000, 170,000 locations. And then we've got our orange or the yellow for my eyes. And those are the places in the state that we are accepting new applications in round 2. And so you can see a little bit of concentration in kind of that southeast corner of the state is having less or looking for more applications than other areas of the state, but you can see some yellow or orange throughout the state where we're hoping in round 2, people add those locations to their existing projects or submit a new application. And then we mentioned this at the April meeting, but I'll say it again here. The state of Wisconsin and every state and territory doing BEAD received a 90-day extension from NTIA in anticipation of a new policy notice. And so every state, we have been telling everyone, we're going to be done by July. We have 365 days, we're doing it. But now we have this 90-day extension, and we're waiting for some new federal guidance to sort of make sure that we're in alignment with the new administration and make sure that we're sort of in alignment with the federal funds. And so the guidance that we received from the federal government said that the waiver or the extension was to remove unnecessary rules and mandates, to improve efficiency, to take a more technology neutral approach, cut unnecessary red tape, and streamline deployment. So I know lots of people are interested in what does this exactly mean and when will it come? I can tell you the state staff, we don't know. We don't exactly know. We're just waiting for this guidance right now. Once this guidance comes, the state will, respond, apply it to our BEAD program and make sure to be in compliance with whatever the federal government tells us are the updated rules or the new ways that BEAD is going to be implemented. Also in the future, we have round 3. That's kind of what and some people might call like the cleanup round or the stragglers round, where you try to negotiate and get kind of any locations that don't have a viable project applied to them into an award. And then the final steps in BEAD, and again, we're waiting for some new guidance, so these could change, but as we send our draft of all our locations and all our subawards to NTIA, they meet with us about it. We put it out as a state for public comment. The draft final proposal and the public comments would go to our commission for review and approval and any decisions that need to be made. And then it gets submitted to NTIA. And so we still have quite a few steps in front of us to get to kind of the end line in BEAD, and the timing is a little less known. I will say, if folks didn't see last Tuesday, Governor Evers did send a letter to the Secretary of Commerce requesting a fast review and limited or no changes. So we are really hopeful that BEAD will progress kind of as planned and at least expeditiously with more efficiency in the future. And then I think this is our final slide, and maybe kind of disappointing news, or at least disappointing news for the state of Wisconsin. We've talked to folks on the task force for a long time about the Wisconsin Digital Equity Plan and the digital equity capacity funding that was coming to the state, was intended to come to the state to implement our plan. And so this had a lot of alignment with task force recommendations, and both the plan and the way the state had requested to use our capacity funding really aligned with a lot of things we had been hearing from the task force. So this increased digital skills, have more digital navigators, digital opportunity coalitions are kind of another way we were trying to do that kind of local planning and engagement of local government. The state was accepting applications for these grants, and on May 2nd, the state of Wisconsin and all states and 6 territories received basically termination notices from the federal government, a full sort of stop all work, end the program. And so the state of Wisconsin closed our competitive sub-granting process. We closed down our grant portal, and we sort of updated our website. And so at this time, while the commission still remains really committed to internet affordability and thinking about adoption in it holistically, our federal grant program that we had hoped to administer is now terminated, and we won't be moving forward. So kind of some sad news there that I wish we weren't having to share, but we are. And I think that's all the updates from the commission. And I know we want to dig in on recommendations and other pieces, unless folks have questions from the commission updates. Rachel.
Yes, thank you for all the information, Alyssa and Rory. I had a question about BEAD and the identified locations. If there was a location that was supposed to get RDOF funding and then it defaulted, are they eligible for BEAD, or was the timeline like it didn't match up and now those locations are kind of not on that list? How does it work?
So there was a number of providers the first couple years of RDOF that withdrew or kind of defaulted on locations. Since we started kind of our BEAD subgranting process and that final list of locations was established, there haven't been any more defaults. I'm like 98% sure. And so all that stuff that happened up until about November of last year is taken into account for BEAD. So a lot of those defaults you heard from like LTD or Charter or a couple others, those are locations that are still eligible for BEAD. Those are locations that BEAD's going to pick up and should get service through BEAD. So Alyssa can check if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've had any defaults on RDOF since last fall. So anything that was defaulted is eligible for BEAD. Alyssa's nodding, so I must be right.
Yeah, there may be future defaults, and there may be defaults that have been submitted to the FCC that aren't shared with the state yet, because they don't have to share them with us until they've reviewed them. And so they're not always immediately public. So there could be additional ones, but most of them happened before our BEAD eligibility process, or all the ones that happened before BEAD eligibility are eligible.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, Mark, maybe we'll give it back to you and Jessica to run our discussion.
Yes, I'll hand it over to Jessica to lead us in the discussion. And requesting you to allow presenter to share, so allow Jessica. Should be all good now, Jessica.
All right, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. By now, you are very familiar. You should be hopefully very familiar with how we've done things at past meetings. This meeting will be no exception, except that now this is really the final review of the recommendations that you guys worked really hard since January to come up with. As usual, just a reminder of Executive Order 80 as you're in your rooms. If you need a reminder of any of, I guess, your purpose, you can have your room facilitator kind of pop back over to this slide and you could take a quick look at it. I'll go over it in more detail when you're in your rooms, just for the sake of the rest of the meeting. So the recommendation categories have changed a little bit. We have deployment, partnerships, and functional adoption. In 2024, they were getting ready for BEAD, affordability and adoption, and continued funding. So what has happened is there's been a little bit of a shakeup in the categories, and I think they're very kind of neatly organized this way. So deployment would include the subcategories of continued investment in state broadband programs, permitting and grant administration. Partnerships has the subcategories of broadband facility locating, workforce training and tribal coordination, and functional adoption has the subcategories of affordability, digital skills and literacy, and preparing for our digital future. We did not plan for each of them to have only 3. It just worked out really neatly that way. So in your rooms, we've got 3 rooms. Each room has 2 different slides. I split them up so that it would maybe be easier for the note takers. So each room is going to start with your room assignment. So room 1 is going to start with deployment recommendations. Here's what we're going to do though. After a set amount of time, Mark and I will have you guys switch to the next one. So if you were in room 2, you're going to go to room, sorry, if you were in room 1, you're going to go to room 2. And by room 2, I mean you're just going to go to the slides that say room 2. Does that Mark, go ahead.
Yep, nope.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
1 to 2, 2 to
So
3, 3 to 1 on the slides. Yep, and you'll have 15 minutes. Can you give facilitators permission on the document?
oh yes, they're going to, well, they should, if you use the link, they should have it because that was set up so that
Okay,
they
all
can.
right.
I
Um,
can't, Jessica. I'm not able to.
Oh.
I don't think Matt is either.
Yeah, it
Oh,
might be
okay.
in view only.
Yep.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and fix that, but I just want to, one more time, you're going to start out in your room assignment here where it says room 1, or room 2 or room 3. And then, when Mark and I send you guys a notification, you are then going to move to the next room. So if you were in room 3, you're going to bump up to room 1. And there's the reason we wanted to do this is so that you would all get a chance to look at all 3 of those categories and you wouldn't be kind of stuck only talking about the one category. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can get the facilitators the permissions they need. But please do ask questions about the process and what we're asking you to do. There is a note at the top of the slide that's asking you what we're asking you to review each recommendation for, right? Remember, this is the final review. We're looking for anything that's missing. We're looking for anything that might still need to be further combined, although we did do a lot of combinations after our in-person meeting. So it's really more of kind of an open discussion and a noticing of things that are missing or need to be combined or added. Sorry, guys, I'll get you that permission.
Yep, and I'm just finalizing the breakout rooms and I'll send them in here in a few seconds. For any task force members that did not get into a break room, just raise your hand and I'll get you into a breakout room. So opening those rooms in 3, 2, 1. See you guys in 15 minutes.
If facilitators are able to like refresh their page, they should be able to access it now.
Yep. I'm able to, Jessica.
Great.
Josie says she can as well.
Okay. Great.
Mark, we have Michelle and Rachel still
Yep.
not. Okay. Cool.
Maybe I will, like I did last time, Mark, do you want me to share my screen and just kind of
Yep.
go over
Yep, go right
Executive
ahead.
Order 80? Okay. So I'll share my screen and I'm going to kind of briefly go over Executive Order 80, which is kind of goes over the purpose of the task force. And then I'll kind of pop back and forth into some of the notes that are being taken so that we can kind of just have, I guess, transparency in the process. So Executive Order 80 charges the task force to research and recommend forward-looking broadband policies and initiatives that address state broadband goals and needs. They also need to promote the efficient strategic expansion of the broadband facilities and adoption across the state. Explore and develop solutions in collaboration with key broadband stakeholders and experts, and identify and prepare technical or white papers on top priority issues concerning broadband in Wisconsin as necessary. And they also need to report to the governor and legislature annually on all of those listed items there. I'm not going to read those out loud, but they can be found in Executive Order 80. And essentially, this is what we're doing here today, right? They've been working on recommendations since January, and now they are looking at reporting to the governor and legislature through these recommendations. So there's probably not a lot happening yet with notes, but I'll just kind of pop in and see what's going on. Okay. Yep. I'll stop sharing for a little bit, and then when things start rolling, I'll share again.
Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Now I forgot my question. I had a question for you, Mark. Are you timing? That was my question. You're muted.
Yes, they have 10 more minutes left.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to start a timer, so.
Yep, we got it. And then probably the third go around, we'll shorten it a little bit, just
Y-
looking at time. So,
Yep, and that usually is what happens anyway with
Yeah.
this. Yep. Room 3 started with the second slide of theirs. They have the biggest. They have the most to review.
That's awesome. You want to share?
Yeah, I'll share now. Yep. Good idea. I'm going to go up to room 1. So room 1 is their discussion has been around, what has the task force been doing to encourage the state to go after federal dollars. And in response to the recommendation about investing additional state budget funding for broadband expansion, their note was see how BEAD plays out to see what funding is needed. So kind of looking at what's left after BEAD so that we can plan for that. I'm going to pop down to room 2 here. So it looks like room 2 is talking about locates and updating state statute that might include penalties for missed locates.
Jessica, I just want to confirm the goal is to do like your first slide for the first session, and then we'll come back and then you do your second slide as the second breakout. Is that the plan?
Oh, actually, no. It was to go over both.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's really a lot, though. So we could switch that plan up.
No, Josie's just asking. It's 15 minutes, and then are
Yep,
we going back?
Yep.
they're coming back out. Yep.
But if they don't if they don't get through both slides in the 15 minutes, then another team will. Another team will look at that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
This has always been a big task.
Finding that right balance of the amount of time is really hard.
Yeah, it is. Um,
We did have enough time originally scheduled.
right. So then the room 3 is looking at in response to preparing for the development of new technology resources and tools, including chatbots and generative AI. Um, they're looking at considering identifying emerging and new tech before preparing for development. Oh, identifying before preparing. Yep. And then in response to continued funding and support for digital navigation adoption and literacy initiatives, it's consider including language for developing or seeking additional and new funding following termination of federal funds. So I'm thinking that's saying consider including language in the recommendation about those things is how I'm reading that, but we'll let them report out. And Mark, when it gets to 5 minutes, can you give them a 5-minute warning?
Yep, will do.
Yeah. Looks like they must be like heavy in conversation. Mm. So in response to improving digital literacy and cybersecurity awareness, they're saying consider going beyond awareness into tangible cybersecurity tools.
That's technical.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
Yeah, right?
Good. Speaking of locate, because you brought up locate once, I was in um, a webinar earlier today where locates was talked about nationwide. So
Ooh.
I threw you up. So hearing what they're doing at the federal level, what other states are doing, and then I threw in there what we're doing here in Wisconsin with the task force and locate recommendations.
Oh, I would have loved to have heard about that one. I've been trying to break into the locates discussion.
I'll,
You
I'll
might
forward
know
you
that. Yeah,
yep, I'll forward you the webinar once it's posted.
that's great. So with affordability, expand the availability of Lifeline to more households by providing incentives to encourage ISPs to become eligible telecommunications carriers, ETCs. I think this is a really good point. Make clear that eligibility criteria for ACP and Lifeline are different. Legislators may not know that, and frankly, just people may not know that. That's my addition.
No, that's worth making point to note.
Yeah.
Once you start talking statute, it gets particular.
This is Mark. 4 more minutes.
Okay. You're sending them a warning?
That was my warning. Broadcast
Ah.
my voice into the rooms.
Oh, that's cool.
It's sent to them. I was looking over here, so I probably didn't see.
They also there's a timer at the top of the breakout room, so they have a general idea.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So one thing I noticed here is they're commenting on 4 through 6, so all of the permitting ones. They're saying getting DOT permits is more difficult, costly, and time consuming. If this process could be more efficient and less costly. So it sounds like they're maybe advocating for trying to make the process more efficient and less costly. Railroad crossing is incredibly painful and could use help to move along the process. Yes. In a lot of my early conversations about that, I learned a lot about why it might be incredibly painful. All right. Room 2 must be having some deep conversation. And it's possible that there won't be notes on every single one of these, and there doesn't have to
Yep.
be.
Nope, doesn't have to be. Yep.
Right.
If it's perfect as
Yep.
is.
Yep. Then
Right.
we did good.
Yep.
And again, these are all stemming from our in-person discussion at our April meeting. So Jessica, you did a good job putting the notes together for us as it was all written all over easel paper, and you're able to translate everybody's writing and get the notes to Rory and I and Alyssa, and then we're able to go from there. So thank you.
You're very welcome. I was afraid the translating was going to be hard, but it wasn't because I did it within like 2 days. Is when I like first got everything typed in. Plus, I think Rory kept saying that it was going to be difficult to translate his writing, but it really wasn't, Rory. You did a great job.
You're too kind.
Let's see. Consider identifying. Okay, we already said that one. We got that one already.
1 minute, Jessica.
Okay. And then when the breakout room ends, we're just going to send them right back, or they're
Discuss.
in there.
They can discuss what they came up with. And then
Oh, okay, great.
Yep, then we'll throw them back in there for
Okay.
another 15, and then
And this time, if they were room 1, they're
Yep.
going to be talking about partnerships. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
I do know what we planned. I just,
One of those days.
yeah. We probably all got a little thrown off too.
Here they all come. There's Josh.
Is everyone back yet? Nope. Now they're coming back. All right, great. I'm going to share my screen, and could we have a volunteer from each group just do like a very quick highlight reel of what your conversation was around before we go into the next round of discussion. Room 1.
Christine, I give you permission to unmute.
Thanks. Yeah, so let's see. For the first one, looks like we want to keep it as it is, but also see how BEAD plays out to kind of see what kind of funding is needed. And really just, we might need more state budget for broadband deployment because we're unsure of that federal grant funding. And then for 2, yeah, we just question for the group is like, could the state potentially ask for that RDOF money that had to get released?
Mm.
Um,
But the recommendation is fine. It's just that there's this little lingering
Yeah.
question out there. Okay.
Yes, yeah. And then 3, just a bit of a discussion. I think that the recommendation is fine, but just, lingering thoughts on, you know, tribal consent with all this funding going around. And it seems as though tribes really want to take more ownership of the broadband going onto their lands.
So we might want to have some action steps or something related to that, maybe. Yeah.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
And then 4 through 6, kind of just making a statement that permitting is becoming more difficult, costly, and time consuming, especially with railroad crossings. And I don't think there was really much to change for these recommendations, but just an
Mhm.
emphasis on speeding up the permitting process. And then 7, um, just a thought to if an ISP has a really great reporting and compliance record, if they've done really well in the past, potentially streamlining future reporting because they have a good track record and kind of just looking at the overall cost of a project, including that grants administration, especially if, you know, an ISP has done well in the past, do they continue to put in a lot more time into that process? Okay,
Awesome. Thank you so much. I don't mean
thanks.
to rush you through, Christina. I'm sorry.
It's
Room
okay.
2.
Does anyone
Josie?
else want to present for room 2? Brittany or anyone? Or else I can.
Go ahead, Josie.
Okay, I'll go for it. Sorry. We didn't have much for this one. Essentially, we really just had on number 11, we heard that there is an existing state statute regarding locates, and so just somehow changing the language to just say like update state statute.
Mhm.
To include penalties for mislocates, if that's what we're trying to do, that we're just trying to target that statute that already exists.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, room 3.
All right. We actually didn't have any notes. I think this may have been a different group that jumped in here. We thought this first slide looked pretty good.
Okay.
And with the second, we had a few little refinements. For this recommendation number 22, consider including some language to for seeking additional or new funding, as opposed to just continue funding and support for funding existing funding. And then for 25, a slight addition of maybe identifying potential emerging and new tech, maybe just slightly refining the language there for new technologies, including, or yeah, you get the gist of that. And then
Yeah.
26, consider kind of going beyond awareness for cybersecurity measures into more tangible tools, which I think it kind of details, but maybe adding a little bit more nuance.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Does anyone need any clarifications from what the 3 rooms just went over? You would have to probably raise your hand or put in the chat that you need a clarification. Okay. You have another chance. Mark, how long will they have in this?
15 minutes again.
Okay, you're going to have 15 minutes again. I think the third round's going to be shorter. And so if you were in room 1, you guys are going to be working in the next one, which is you're going to be working in the partnerships recommendations. If you were in room 2, you're going to be working in functional adoption. And if you were in room 3, you are going to be working on deployment recommendations. Got it? I can see it in your faces. You guys got it.
All right, here they go.
It's like last time, I'll share my screen when I start to see things moving. I always feel a little bit like a spy when I'm.
We can't see your screen.
Oh, I know. I
Oh,
know. There's nothing happening right now. Otherwise,
okay.
I will share in a second anyway, but there's nothing really happening right now. They're probably just getting their bearings with the new topic. Now things are happening. I'll share my screen. So the partnerships folks are talking about recommendation 8. Looks like they agree with it. The functional adoption folks, they're responding to recommendation 24, strengthen partnerships between state, local, and tribal governments, educational and workforce organizations, ISPs, and digital inclusion organizations to increase adoption, especially in rural areas. Looks like they're giving a little more context and explanation here by saying we should increase broadband adoption, especially in rural areas. Oh, I think they're rewriting that recommendation actually. Increase broadband adoption, especially in rural areas, by addressing barriers such as digital skills and building trusting relationships. To do so, engage state, local, and tribal governments, educational and workforce organizations, ISPs, and digital inclusion organizations. They just kind of flipped it. Yeah. Good grammar, everyone. Thank you. All right. Let me move up here. We're talking about how it's getting very expensive to fix damages caused by contractors. So they agree with the penalties on delays. Recommendations okay as is for recommendation 1. Also evaluate how, oh, they just added that the recommendations okay as is, and then the first group had said that we should evaluate how BEAD plays out to see what funding is needed. And then I like how that group's qualifying everything. This one's good, this one's okay.
What the elaboration of the okay is.
Yeah. Let's see. As long as it's not public information, the recommendation is good. There are security and concerns. Let's see. Recommendation 9, increase the availability of design and engineering information for grant-funded broadband deployment projects to expedite locating for broadband deployment, including BEAD awardees. So as long as it's not public, they feel like that would be good. Okay. Good.
Nine and a half minutes left, Jessica.
Okay. You said 9.5 minutes left? Okay.
Yes.
You can give them another warning at 5. So particularly with railroad, how do lines of communication with railroad improve? Who has jurisdiction and or ability to improve this? And what about an intergovernmental approach? Really want to comment on things, but it's not it's not time for that. Okay. We'll take a sharing break. Looks like they're talking right now and not writing, so. Hmm. All right, I'll share again. We got more activity going on. This group moved their railroad comment up to recommendation 5. It had previously been in 6. Consider addressing permitting challenges, streamlining / toolkit / resources from and for the railroad perspective as opposed to the grantees. Or from the railroad perspective as opposed to the grantees. Maybe I'll stop reading them as they're typing them.
No, I like the play-by-play. It's good.
Right? Recommendation 12. You know what we should make this time, Mark? This should be a radio show between the two of us. Um, so let's
Podcast.
see. Recommendation 12, they're questioning whether the last sentence, which is foster partnerships with the ISPs, whether that belongs to this recommendation or is it standalone? And then recommendation 13, take some wording from 14, such as worker retraining and youth partnerships, to 13, and then get rid of 14. I could see that. Let's see. Nothing new here yet, but they're working on it. I can see it. Okay. Add language in the narrative that use of bandwidth is growing, and we need to consider energy capacity to run servers for advanced computation. I'm really glad we're having them go from room to room.
Feels like a lot of sort of like
Mhm.
a fine coordinated dance or something, choreography.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's great.
These are great suggestions. How much longer do they have, Mark?
3 minutes and 15 seconds.
Okay.
Very precise.
And so for the last one, what we'll probably have 6 minutes in the room?
Yeah,
7?
perfect. Yep, I was going 5 to 6 as of right now.
Yep, that looks good. Or that sounds good. I would love to help facilitate some conversations with the railroad. I enjoyed going down that path when I was digging into it last year. Is 17 missing? Did I not include? Because this one starts at 18. Hmm. So this one, deadline for tribal nations to review and respond to speed up process. Hmm. I'm gonna stop sharing and see if I can grab number 17 and get it on there.
I shall be coming back here in a sec.
Okay. There we go. All right, we're gonna do the same thing we did the last time. Same verse. Second verse, same as the first. Um, but this time, even more rapid fire because we want to get you guys to that last discussion. So room one, you guys, that would be Christina, right? You guys were talking about partnerships recommendations. Could you summarize that?
Sure. So for the most part, it looks like the group thought all of these recommendations were good, added some notes on just sort of agreeing with some penalties. And number 9, they think it's a good recommendation, just as long as that information is not, fully available to the public.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think all of these were in agreement. And then this next one, for number 12, there was a question of if that last foster partnerships as ISPs was really necessary. for
Mhm.
that recommendation to be added to it, or if it could stand alone. And then here's some example language if it were to be a standalone recommendation on its own. Um, and then for 13, uh, there was a suggestion of maybe removing recommendation 14 and just adding that youth apprenticeships and worker retraining programs to 13 at the end, because it seemed as though 14 was maybe redundant to 13. And then otherwise, the tribal coordination recs were good. We were missing 17, so I wasn't really sure, but we did have a note from someone in the
I
group.
just added it. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. But I think there was just a note on including maybe recommendation on having a deadline for tribal nations to sort of review that permitting, those documents for them, and giving them a deadline to review and respond.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you so much. Let's go with the folks who were discussing functional adoption.
Sure, I'll be real fast. For number 18, we just said clarify that this would be a state-run program that's run by the government. For number 20, we said this is it can be in the narrative. It doesn't have to be in that recommendation. We said to make clear that the eligibility criteria for ACP and Lifeline are different.
Sorry, next one.
Sorry, yeah. For 22, I'm these asterisks, by the way. Consider future state funding and support for digital navigation. We wanted to make it clear that, some of the DE funding on the federal level has gone away now, so we want to consider future state funding. Number 24, that was really just rewording that. And then I put in an asterisk that maybe we should call to attention that in rural areas, schools and libraries play a huge role in this space, and just to be more clear about that. For 25, again, this is not all of our recommendations are for this specific recommendation. They're sometimes just for things to cover. We wanted to say that use of bandwidth is exponentially growing, and the need to consider energy capacity to run servers is growing as well. And then we did have a specific language change, which is replace will meet with will scale with. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much. And then finally, the deployment recommendations, folks.
Yeah, we're kind of focused on recommendation 5 and 6 on the next slide. Mainly, we kind of started with recommendation 6, talking about maybe considering tailoring some toolkit and resources to specifically railroads or other agencies about the permitting process and the challenges and requirements of broadband programs or broadband deployment. And then kind of honed in a little bit further on recommendation 5, considering communication and streamlining and expediting permitting processes, thinking about what that communication might actually look like. Again, looking at railroads, some other groups noted that as a particular pain point. What sort of collaboration would look like between different agencies, and then considering adding some detail around action rather than, kind of fostering communication. But is there any detail that we can add for adding some sort of action for automatic approvals for permitting, or any other tools or resources that the task force could potentially support?
Awesome. Thank you. So the next one, if we do this for 5 minutes, then we're gonna.
No, Jessica, let's just go into open
Let's-
discussion for any.
That's what I was gonna say. Let's maybe do open discussion. We tried to get you to all 3. Sorry, everyone. So any clarifications or questions around what the other groups came up with, or just really, something that maybe you didn't get to take a look at, but you had questions about, or anything, any thoughts? Yeah, Rory.
I want to leave another minute for task force members, but I think just because the meeting got cut a little short today, we can kind of have Mark plan to send maybe a copy of this or just like the Word doc of recommendations. And if members have any kind of other follow-up thoughts in the next week or so,
Yeah.
please feel free to send those back to us via email and we can kind of incorporate those as well.
It's a great idea. Thanks, Rory.
Well, if there's nothing else from task force members, I can take it from here, Jessica.
Sounds good.
All right, for next steps, there will be no June meeting, so we can go ahead and finish up the recommendations and finalize the report and get that turned in. That would set the next meeting date on July 16th at 1 p.m. So stay tuned for the agenda. I will call this meeting to adjourn. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you all.
Thanks all.